You rise up in the morning beneath the stars so bright. Pull your hat down, make sure your cinch is tight. Horse is kinda snuffy, cold chill up your spine. Go get your ass moving, son, we're burning daylight.
Howdy there, I'm Matt McKinley and we're burning daylight.
In the saddle till the job's done right.
Welcome to Burnin' Daylight, the only podcast for the working cowboy. Well, howdy there, daylight burners. Hope the weekend's treated you well. I am still tired of snow, but it's just keeps coming. I hate bitching about good moisture, but man, I'm ready for some spring weather. I got Patryck Minter with me today. I was telling him earlier he's the first token black guy that I've had on the show. So I think that's a big achievement in today's world. It's like, you know, we gotta hit the diversity boxes, and so there we go. We got our first black guy on the show. How are you, man?
Somebody's got to start it off, right, Matt?
That's right. It's just funny. Growing up, I've told people, like, you see, if we saw any black people that weren't on TV, like it was kind of like a novelty because there weren't any around growing up. We had white people and Mennonites and Mexican guys, and that was all we had in the southeast corner of Colorado. And then and then, like, even going up to Fort Collins, there really weren't that many black people there. They were all on the football or the basketball team. And that was Fort Collins is pretty white.
It's pretty bright up there, as I like to say.
Longmont, I can't imagine it's too much different than that. It used to not be, but it's that whole Front Range area is just like one mega city, it seems like.
Yeah, it used to, you can drive from Denver to Fort Collins now and you don't get a break in the buildings. And it used to be, once you got north of Loveland, it was pretty well open. And now they're just building it up, man. If there's a place they can stick a business, they're doing it.
Oh, yeah. And like same way between, say, like Longmont all the way up to Loveland was pretty wide open. Like there was, you'd have towns here and there, but there was a lot of farm ground. There was a lot of pasture. Now it's just one city limit sign to the next. That's the only way you can tell the difference between towns.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's changed a lot since I was talking with my dad this morning. I got a call from my buddy Will Bledsoe the other day. I went to college with him. His family's been down around like Wild Horse, Flagler, Hugo area. They've run a lot of through there. And my dad was headed up to Denver for a water commission meeting or something to do with his water wars, and he needed to mail something. So he stopped in at the post office at Hugo and ran into Will Bledsoe. So Will visited with him and then called me right after. And then my dad's birthday was today, so called him and he's like, I ran into one of your buddies. And it's you're kind of a minor celebrity throughout Colorado ag world, so it's not that surprising when somebody in a little small town like that recognizes him, because he's kind of known through there.
Yeah, sure.
So what do you do around you said Longmont's where you're at?
Yeah, I live in Longmont. I actually take care of a little ranch up here. They got about 200 mama cows, and then I manage a backgrounding yard, and we background about 8,500 head of little good calves and get them ready to go either to grass or to the big feed yard. So that's what I'm doing now. But man, I've done everything that pays.
Yeah, I when you're broke, your standards of what you're willing to do go way down. Like when you need some money, you go, I hate this job, but if it pays, it pays.
Their checks are good, so I guess I'll be there.
Yeah, exactly. That's
yes, sir.
I've done a lot of non-glamorous jobs, but I've always it makes you appreciate when you get a good gig though. Like I got a good gig now, and I appreciate the hell out of it because I've had to work to get there, but it's it's hard to see sometimes, but like hard work does pay off. Like if you actually bust your ass and try to get somewhere, like you'll get there. Might not be quite where you want it to be, but it's like hard work does pay. Sometimes it's just hard to see.
It's funny. I was talking to a buddy of mine the other day, and like I've got a 24-foot Delco trailer and a 1-ton pickup sitting outside, and I was looking through some text messages that I sent to my buddy back in 2016, and I told him, I was like, I'll be happy when I have me a 24-foot half top and a 1-ton pickup that I own, and I can look out the window here and I see that. So sometimes I have to remember that you may not be where you want to be, but you ain't where you were 5 years ago.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's one thing where like we all come. I mean, essentially everybody here in the U.S. came from people that wanted to find something else, and like people just picked up and moved to where they thought there was opportunity. And like a lot of times they'd leave their whole family behind, wife, kids, and everything. Like there's a job out west. I'm gonna go get it and get things settled out there. Or I'm gonna build a homestead, and when stuff is built, I'll send for you. Yes. And it seems like people aren't quite as willing to do that anymore. And it's honestly, it's never been easier to do that ever. But people are like less willing to do that.
Yeah, it's not. I'm 28 years old, but a lot of people tell me I'm 68 inside. But I think it's just, with what we see on the internet and the social media, everything looks so glamorous, and nobody's posting their failures. There's no fuck ups getting posted, So
I know.
And you look at that and you're like, oh, they just had it handed to them. But really, they're, most people now, there's the 3 ways to get in the ranch, and you can be one of the 3 sons. But other than that, if you're not one of them, a lot of people just humped it, man.
Yeah. It's like you get your foot in the door somewhere, and if you work hard and you learn, that's the thing is if there's some of those older guys that just ain't going to teach you. They just ain't going to. It's not in there. And I understand there's times where I'm just like, I don't want to teach another damn kid.
Yeah.
That's probably not going to be here in 6 months anyways. But also while he's there, if I teach him a little bit and he's willing to learn, it sure makes both of our jobs a lot easier. And
at least make him useful if you're going to pay him.
Yeah, exactly. So it's, it's kind of it's a fine line, because there's also times like if they just ain't willing to learn, I ain't willing to work with them either. And it's like, man, I've told you the same thing like 4 or 5 different times, and you still do the same fucking mistake, and it's an easy fix, but you don't listen to me for some reason. So I'm just going to stop trying,
Absolutely. And I've been lucky enough, man. I've gotten around everybody that I've come in contact with. I shouldn't say everybody. Most of the people that I've come in contact with in this lifestyle or industry, if you are just willing to ask a question, they'll tell you, anything you want to know, as long as they see you're trying. And I've been lucky enough to, be around some people that they'll pour into you as long as they see that you're receptive and want to learn. So,
no, I think that's right. So how did you get into cowboying? You said you're born in Tennessee and you moved out to Colorado when you were young.
Yeah, sure. So I grew up in Tennessee, and we got a little farm back there, and they do that. And I learned at a real early age that me and tractors don't mix very well. I am the furthest thing from a mechanic. Like, my kid's going to have to take their lawnmower to town to get gas put in it. Like, I'm just not a mechanic, And,
I hate mechanicking. I can do some basic shit, but I hate it. I don't like mechanicking. It's not my jam.
I don't fit, man. I'm 6'8", 300 pounds. I don't got
Holy
my hands
shit.
don't fit in that little stuff. Like,
You're just a little feller, huh?
yeah, I'm just a small guy, I don't take up much room at all. So
yeah. You
but
got to
no.
ride a 16-hand horse or your feet would drag the ground.
Oh, yeah. And it's funny because, like, showing cow horses or cutting or something, everybody looks and they're like, how little is that horse? Like, it looks like I'm riding a stick horse out there. But usually most of my horses are 15.2, 15.3. They look small under me.
Oh, man. I was watching when we were watching the NFR and some of those calf ropers that are coming out, like that Corey Solomon. I forget there's like 3 or 4 of the like really good black calf ropers, and like you guys are just so much more athletic than us white boys. It's insane just watching them like just fly down the rope, and you're like, holy shit, that guy is fast. That dude is fast.
And they're doing it in arena dirt and square toes. So
I know it. And they pick up those calves like it's nothing too, like big old soggy calves, and they just, and like some of them have really good technique, but some of them don't. They're just like big, stout, and fast. And but watching their hands work too, I'm just like, if it wasn't so damn expensive to get into rodeo, man, there wouldn't be a white guy left after a while. all you black fellas would just dominate the sport. Like kind of same way, like they haven't taken over hockey because it's too cold, I guess. But man, if they did, like the Canadians would have to find a new national sport because there wouldn't be any Canadians left.
That's why that barrier to entry is so high in rodeo and lacrosse and hockey. Those sports. There's not a lot of ice rinks in the predominantly African American areas. There's not really going to be a lot of ice rinks. Yeah. It don't get cold enough in Memphis to make an ice rink.
Yeah, no shit, man. I remember in college, we went to a Bronco game. We had my roommate, his dad's is like part owner of a welding company somewhere in Denver, and they had season tickets, so we'd get to go to Bronco games fairly regularly, and we were sitting up there in club level, and Trevor Price was on the team, but he was out that week, injured or something, and he was just like cruising around club level, and he walked by us, and I looked like the biggest fucking country bumpkin because I was just looking him up. I mean, that was a massive man, like just absolutely
that's
massive.
a mammoth of a human being.
Yeah, and you're just like, all these little like 1A, 2A schools on the Eastern Plains, like everybody thinks their kid's gonna make the NFL, and you're just like, no, that's the NFL right there. These little, these 6 foot tall, country strong white boys, they might do good in college and maybe at a small, or they'll do good in high school and maybe like a small like D2 college, but they got to be something. You got to be like super white boy to make it in the NFL anymore. Like that, we don't grow them that big, And when we make them that big, they ain't nearly as fast as you fellas are. Like it's a whole different world.
It's a different world, man. I don't know. It's like I played sports growing up, and I went to college and stuff, and I was the guy in my little area, and then all of a sudden you get around dudes from Texas that graduated with 4,500 kids, and you're just there, like
Yeah, you might think you're fast and strong, and then you run into a Von Miller, and you're like, oh, that's just a different type of human.
Yeah, exactly.
Like at that point, skin color is irrelevant. And like, no, that's a superior athlete in general.
He's from another planet.
Yeah,
I tell you, man. I told you how big I am, and I wasn't that big. I played basketball, so I was a lot skinnier, but I still eat like a college athlete, But
there you go.
I was the third shortest person on my team, and I'm 6'8".
Jeez, man, that's wild.
Yeah. But to answer your question, how did I get into the cowboy? When we moved here, I had the typical story. It was just me and my mom. My mom got pretty sick when I was younger, and so I kind of lived with a bunch of different family members. And I have an uncle that lived out here, and he's a horseman. He was a horseman. He did he was a Buffalo Soldier reenactor, and he just was,
nice.
he was into the history and the horses, and I wasn't ever a bad kid, but it was just me. I was kind of raising myself a little bit, and my mom wasn't there. My grandma hadn't moved out here yet, and so I was just kind of messing around. Like I wasn't doing anything too wrong, but I dang sure wasn't doing all the right things,
Yeah.
And he took me to his place, and he handed me a fork, and he said, "You got 24 stalls to clean. Let me know when you're done." And I didn't even know what a horse was at that time, man. I'd seen it on TV, but I didn't know anything about it. And it took me all morning to clean them 24 stalls, and it's 97 degrees, and I'm in an old wooden barn, dust flying, and I'm allergic to oxygen, so I'm sneezing, and after we get done with that, he backs in a hay trailer, and we start unloading square bales, and I see all these horses, and people are coming in and out riding and stuff, and I see these guys, and I'm around them, and I don't get to touch a horse for 3 months,
Oh yeah.
And finally, he puts me on a horse, and man, all my problems went away. The world was just a good place, and I got on that horse, and ever since then, I think I've just been searching for that feeling, and I found a way to make a living trying to find that feeling.
It's crazy, ain't it? Like, I have the capacity, and like I'm sure you, I know a lot of people are the same way. Like they got the capacity to go out and find a job that makes a lot more money.
Oh yeah.
But it ain't. I don't know, man. I like what I do. I've kind of resigned myself that quite a while ago. I ain't ever gonna be rich cowboying, but it's I like working with cows, and I love sitting on horseback and working on a horse to get them like where you're just like I was talking with Tommy Gassell the other day. It's like I like to get where I don't have to think about the horse and my job. It's just like they know what I'm doing, I know what they're doing, I know how they're going to react, and then I can let my mind wander and I can. I just love history,
Yes, sir.
This meat packing industry series that I'm doing has been so much fun to research, because it's a wild story. Like, the expansion of the country was all based off the back of a cow for the most part. I mean, and particularly I'm assuming you're descendant of a slave family.
So actually, the place where I grew up in Tennessee, it is the plantation that my ancestors were on.
No shit.
Yeah. So
that's wild.
Yeah.
Was it is it a cotton plantation, or probably
cotton.
Tobacco or cotton?
Cotton and peanuts.
Okay.
Yeah. And now they grow some corn down there now, and do a little bit of everything. It's pretty diversified now, but it's pretty interesting. I come from some enslaved people.
So like you're probably only like 3 or 4 generations removed from it, I would imagine.
My great grandfather's father was born a slave.
Okay.
So, and I think he died. Yeah, he was born a slave, and then he died in like 1900. So
okay.
Yeah.
So he was one of the guys that got 40 acres and a mule after.
Yeah, he was supposed to, I guess.
Yeah. Well, that was supposed to be the deal. The United States government has a way of not following through on those deals.
That's one thing that still hasn't changed.
Yeah.
They're consistent in that, at least.
It's crazy, but like a lot of those former slaves, it's like you stayed where you were and worked your 40 acres and a mule if you got it, or you moved north to the cities and get a job in the factory, or you moved west and either worked on the railroad or became a cowboy. That was kind of the only jobs available for y'all.
Yes, sir.
And so I mean, you said you spent some time down in Oklahoma. Like there's a lot of black cowboys in that kind of like central and southern Oklahoma.
Oh yeah, if you get over there, like my grandfather's family from Tulsa, and they're all cowboys. Like I mean, over there in that central eastern Oklahoma area, because it was the only place that a freed slave could go and not worry about getting sent back. So they went and they went
because
and
it was
started
Indian
punching.
territory, you know.
Exactly. It was lawless. So
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was a tough go. You know, I mean, it still is, depending on where you're from. But there's one thing that it always kind of peeves me. Like there's plenty of stories about like this, coming from a single mother, and like that's where the media always likes to highlight is just like the father's not around. But I've talked to a lot of different guys that are just like, nah, it was either my dad or my uncle, like you were saying, your uncle or my granddad. They beat my ass and made me
exactly.
fly right. And
Yeah.
you don't hear those stories nearly enough. And I like it's just so important to have having a strong male role model in like any young man's life like that. Absolutely. It's essential.
Like my mother is an amazing woman. She's the strongest woman I know. I wouldn't be the person I am without her, but I was bigger than her at 11 years old. I needed somebody to come in and put an elbow in my chest,
Yeah, exactly.
So I was lucky enough.
There's some things that just a woman can't do, and like, exactly. And sometimes it's putting setting a man on the right path. Like some women can get it, but like it's a lot. Most of the time, it takes it kind of takes a backhand from a a strong male role model. Even if they're small, like I know plenty of small guys that ain't afraid to stick a finger in somebody's chest and say, listen here,
Absolutely. And my mom, I mean, I'm terrified of my mom to this day, rightfully so, but there was just certain things that she couldn't teach me. And granted, I mean, she was in the hospital from the time I was in 7th grade till about my junior year of high school. So like she just wasn't around, and it wasn't her fault. She didn't choose to not be around. She was fighting for her life. So, but I got they came and picked me up and they just drugged me with them. And I didn't really have a choice. It was be ready at 6 a.m. and I was ready.
Yep. Yeah. We had a kind of a similar deal because I was adopted and when I went to live with who I call my folks now, my parents, it was foster care at the time, and I'd never seen hide nor hair of a horse. I was a small town kid though. I mean, like I lived like little bitty towns, but I still lived in town. I wasn't a country kid, and sure. And then all of a sudden, here I am 20 miles south of a little bitty town of like 300 people. And I'm way out in the country now, and we raise horses and we raise cattle, and this is what it is. So like I hated it for a while. I mean, I really did not care for it. But like I said, then once you find the right horse where it clicks with you, and then you're just like, oh, that's what it is. That's what this is. I get it now.
Yes, sir.
And but you've always kind of been a country kid then.
I didn't know it. So we lived out there on the farm and stuff, but my mom was a school teacher and she taught in one of the roughest areas in Memphis. And so I grew up.
Memphis is a rough town.
And so I grew up in town, and I didn't realize how connected my family and everything was to just the agriculture lifestyle, post slavery. And so I didn't know, but as I started to get into it and doing research, because just like you, I love history. So I'm looking up everything I can. And I realized that like, this is in my blood, what I'm doing, this is, I was made for this. And so that was another thing. It just really connected for me. It kind of completed me because I spent a lot of time looking for that missing link. And I tried a lot of different things and thought I wanted to be this and that and this. And I just found something that fits. And I've spent the last 16 years of my life just chasing it full speed.
Oh, that's awesome. I got to ask you, how good is your mom and grandma's cooking?
Oh, this is a podcast and she might hear this, but my mom, that's not the gene she got. She didn't get she didn't get the cooking. She sure enough kept me alive, but my grandma, like, I'll tell you this, when I was in high school, me and my friends, we would go over to my grandma's house and she would just cook for us. And that was what we would do on like Saturday evening. My grandma would just cook food and we'd hang out at her house. Like,
That's awesome.
that was
It's like little old Mexican ladies, little old black ladies. Like that's the best food you'll ever eat.
And I mean, don't eat it if you're trying to live a healthy lifestyle. But if you if you want something to taste good, that's where you need to go.
It's because it's poor people food. Like the poor people make the best food. Like the taco is like the like quintessential poor person food. It's just whatever meat you can put on the fire and you pick it up with a tortilla. Like that, it's poor food. Like, I mean, and it like coming from your background, like the slave owners got all the good cuts of the meat. You guys got the ribs and the feet and everything else, and you you had to figure out how to make it taste good.
We got the scraps, and then they decided, we're gonna put a little bit of seasoning on it, and you cook it long enough, it'll get soft. And
I know I've said this many a time on the show, but like it's one of the funniest things I've ever seen is like the Brits conquered the entire world trying to find for the spice trade, only to use none of it on their food.
That's one of my favorite memes. I love that.
It's so funny. It's like, they conquered, Asia and Africa and just like the entire world, and they're getting all these different spices, and then you just like, no, we're gonna have bangers and mash.
We're gonna have baked beans for breakfast. Like what?
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
And not even good baked beans.
No, they're just I don't know. I'm not traveled enough to. I've never had the traditional English breakfast. But what I've seen, I think I'm okay.
Yeah. I was gonna say I'm probably good without it. So are you coming from the South? Do you guys eat grits or hash browns type of guy?
I like all of it, man. I like grits, and this is probably gonna get me chastised by some black people, but I'm a sweet grits guy. Like a lot of people I like savory grits. I like butter and sugar in my grits.
Okay. I've never understood the grits thing. It wasn't like my dad kind of likes it, but I never really lit a fire under me. Now some good hash browns or some home fries, something like that. I'm a potato. I got that part of the white boy gene. I like me some good potatoes. Oh,
I love a good set of hash browns or some home fries or anything really. Yeah, potato can be a base layer for whatever meal you want to make. So.
Oh yeah, it's pretty versatile. It's one thing that the Irish really got right is the potato. They can do some stuff with it. But
absolutely.
The South in particular, I don't care to live in the South, but man, they've got some of the best food, particularly like all American food comes out of the South. And it's just like, I don't know. The first time I like had like true, like what you'd consider soul food, like collard greens and ribs and like good mac and cheese. I mean, son of a bitch. It's so good. So good. No, you wouldn't think that just collard greens would be like so delightful, but man, when you get them made right, boy, that shit's good.
It's the best, man. That's like what we do, on a good Sunday evening. You put some greens on. All you need is greens and a cornbread and a sweet potato, and you got a meal. Like
you can keep that sweet potato. I'll go with the regular potatoes.
You're missing out, man. A good candied yam. There ain't nothing better.
I've tried to like it. I just like I said, I'm that part didn't. I don't know if it's the white boy part that doesn't like it or if it's the Mexican that doesn't like it. And something about it. I'm just I'll do some like sweet potato. Yeah, I'll do some sweet potato fries, and that's about as far as I'll go on that. But
I got you. Yeah, no, I hear you, man. I'm not really adventurous with my food anymore either. So I pretty well stay to what I know.
Yeah. So like you said, your uncle was a horseman. He was just horse trainer, like showing horses, or
no, man. He worked in town and he was just a regular guy, but he did the Buffalo Soldier thing and he just loved the horses and the history of the horse, and he really enjoyed, just riding them. Like he didn't train a lot of horses; he just owned good horses, and I was able to start on good horses, so that
helps.
And I've always thought like I don't know. I think there's something about I think if you're gonna put a kid on something, don't make it miserable for him.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, I agree. There's places where, like it also makes you, like, when you get on a shitty horse, it makes you appreciate a good horse. And
absolutely,
that was kind of my problem. Is my dad raised horses and sold horses. And I got to get on them for the first time. That was my job. I was just the crash test dummy for the most part. And so I didn't care for it. But then the first time I went and had to go move cattle and sort and whatever, and was on a horse that I could actually do stuff with, and I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. We're working to make this horse. We don't have that horse yet. We're making that horse. And, and so then that's when it kind of clicked for me, is like the first time I didn't have to plow rein them around and take 2 miles to turn them, like that, when they could just like step over and cut that cow back. And it's like, oh shit. Okay.
And I'm all about, I like a young horse. I like it. I'm too big to ride a 2-year-old. I know that much, but after that you put 90 days on them, and then I'll take them from there. And there's nothing cooler to me than doing a job on a horse one day, and then the next day he does it. If he does something today that he couldn't do yesterday, I think, that's just the coolest feeling.
Yeah. It's nice. And like, I mean, I've become like an actual cheerleader for my horses sometimes, like especially those young ones, when you finally get them to cross their feet over, and you're like, there you go. That's what I'm looking for.
Oh yeah.
And
it's hard. It's hard when you're trying to train a horse and do a job, because like sometimes if they do it right, you just want to step off of them, loosen off and pet them, but you still got 4 miles to go, so now you can't do that. But I try my best to make sure.
you gotta find a way to let them know they did good, but also like, we still got shit to do. So let's keep that put that feather in your hat, but then let's keep on moving. We still got shit to do. And
absolutely.
So like, what kind of style of cowboy do you are? Like, I would imagine you're more of like the Texas style, riding slow, working.
I like that style. Like I'm a big old mix, man. I've been around so many different people. Like I ride a ranch cutter saddle with rubber on my horn, but I use a 40-foot rope, and like
there you go.
Underneath that rubber is mule hide. If I need to cut that rubber off, I can. But and I ride. I love the Buckaroo, California way of making the horse. I just happen to use the same equipment. It just looks a little different, And
it's all the same at the end of it. I mean, like it's all. I think, and that's kind of what one of the cool things I've kind of noticed through doing this podcast is like anybody that's been around for very long, they may not, like they may still tie hard, but they know how to dally. Like a good hand still knows how to dally, and he may not be comfortable dallying on a slick horn, but could get by if he needed to. Same way with the Buckaroo types. If they had to, they could tie hard and get a job done. And it's and you're seeing a lot more just like a mix of different styles, like there's a lot fewer just like true Buckaroo California types and like true puncher types. Like it's all it's just a lot more of a mix anymore, which, I mean, that's kind of what America is anyways. It just
right.
You have all these distinct different groups, and as they intermingle, I mean, the melting pot is like the best. It really is the best, I guess, metaphor for it. It just, you got all your different ingredients, but they kind of just blend together after a while.
Yeah, sure. And I mean, I grew up when I went to college in northeastern Colorado. A good buddy of mine, he was a true blue flat hat center fire, long 60-foot rope dallying, and I learned a lot from him, because I'd only ever been, up until that point, I'd only ever packed a team rope and we're gonna go. But I learned everything as I'm getting older and trying to become better at what I do. Everything I do, I want it to be as easy as possible on the horse and the cow.
Yeah.
And so I'm learning,
exactly right.
That's the goal at the end of the day. I want it to be as easy as possible on my horses and my cows, because if they don't make it through the day, I don't get paid. So
yep, exactly. Would you go you went to NJC?
I did go to good old NJU up there.
There you go.
Yes, sir.
That's one of the few things I kind of kicked myself for in my college careers. Like I had a chance to, all of these, like whether it was Otero or Lamar or Sterling, I had a chance to go there essentially for free. And instead I just went up to CSU, and I don't really regret that, but I still kind of kick myself and like, I could have saved myself a lot of money and probably had just as much fun at NJC. Like I had a lot of good friends that went there. And same way with Lamar. They were practically begging me to come to Lamar because I had good grades. I was a smart kid, and I was just like, nah, but it was also like that mentality is like, you got to go to a 4-year school. Like that was what everybody told us. And it's not for everybody. But they never tell you exactly, like, they're like, oh, you can get loans or whatever, but they never really focus on like, oh, by the way, you gotta pay that shit back. And
they come calling, they collect on that.
Yeah, that's the only debt that you can never write off. Like you never go bankrupt from your student loans. Like, no, that Uncle Sam's still gonna get his money.
Death, taxes, and student loans guaranteed.
Yeah, it's wild.
No, I think, man, I went to junior college, and like I played basketball in high school, and I had some recruitment from some decent 4-year schools and stuff. But like I said, I was kind of on my own, and class wasn't the highest thing on my priority list in high school.
Yeah.
And so I had to go to junior college, and I went to I knew I wanted to study agriculture and, kind of, and just learn more about what I wanted to do. So I picked the one school that I knew I could play basketball and get an ag degree. And so that's what put me at NJC. And I met some of my best friends, up there. And I think every kid, if I'd have gone to CSU right out of high school, I'd have been in trouble. You just can't, I came from it's not a small town anymore, but it was a small town. And heck, there was going to be more people in that lecture hall than in my high school. So,
oh man, that was the same way it was for me. It was funny. You talk about like being scared to death of your mom. I was the same way. Like my mom, she passed here quite a while ago. It was 2011, so 12 years ago. But she was the school librarian, did some business classes. She was very involved in school, and I got in trouble before I did anything wrong. She rode my ass so hard. I know I've told it before, but I sang in the choir in high school because I did not want to go to my so I think it was my freshman, sophomore year of high school. We had band 5 days a week, and I was a band geek. I tried to quit band, and my mom wouldn't let me. She's like, "No, you're pretty talented. You're gonna stay through." And I'm glad she did. I had that. And but then they switched it to where it was we had the same teacher for band and choir, and so they went Monday, Wednesday, Friday was band, Tuesday, Thursday was choir, and I was like, well, I'm not a singer, I'm not going to be in choir. Well, my only other option for that time of day, it was the first period of the day, was ag mechanics, which I couldn't take because it was only 2 days a week, and the other option was a reading class with my mom. So I went to my mom's reading class, and I didn't hardly say a word that entire class period, but I got yelled at like 7-8 different times. And I was like, screw it. I'll go sing. I don't give a shit. I'll go sing these stupid gay songs just so I don't get yelled at anymore. And I think that was her plan the whole way. She's like, if I make it miserable enough for him, he'll quit and go sing.
Run him out of here.
Yeah, and she's like, you got a good voice, go sing anyways. And well, it beats just getting nagged to death. So
absolutely,
that's what I'll do. And so she understood that I was an intelligent kid, and she's like, no, you're not going to be an idiot. You are not going to be an idiot. it would have helped me to go to a 2-year school to actually learn how to study a little bit. I was smart enough to where I didn't have to study a whole lot in high school. And then when I got to college, I didn't know how to study. And and it was I don't know. I think kids go to college too young. I look back and I was like, man, if I would have started at 25, I would have fucking crushed university.
But I'm the same way, man. I went to high school, and I'm a smart guy. I'm not a genius, but I'm dang sure not dumb. And in high school, the stuff I did, I got A's on. It was just I didn't care. I thought, I was like, I play basketball. I'm going to the NBA. Like, I thought if I could put a ball in a hoop, I would just get a free ride along. And then I got out of high school, and I was like, oh, this is the real world. Like, and I went to school, and heck, I barely graduated high school, but I made the dean's list every year in college.
That's awesome.
So it's not that I couldn't do it. I just was being dumb.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And my mom she's like, no, she never flat out said it like that, but that's like looking back on it. That's what it was. Like, no, I'm not going to allow you to be an idiot.
Absolutely.
And that it made a big impact in my life. So, I mean, and I with my kids nowadays, I same way. I'm just like, it is not cute. It's not, and it's not cool to act like a dum-dum. And I was like, because you're not a dum-dum. You've got a good brain. You put it to work, and you can do a lot of good things. I'm not going to allow you to skate through life, pretending to be dumb. So people give you, no, use your head, use what God gave you, and go get it. That's
sir. Absolutely. No, I 100% agree. Nobody, I mean, you watch on TV and they portray this big dumb jock, and he's the super popular guy and everybody loves him, but nobody in the real world likes an idiot.
No, that big dumb jock that had everything handed to him in high school because he was a good athlete. If that good athlete didn't continue being a good athlete after high school, well, I guess he's usually the shitty cop that nobody likes.
Exactly. He's that guy doing something that nobody wants to see coming, and he goes to the bar on Friday nights and talks about how good he was in high school.
Glory days. Yeah. And then he's the guy that's got a badge on his chest now, and he's gonna make people know he's the real, he's not to be fucked with. And that's
exactly. Nobody hates. There's nothing worse than those guys.
No, there really is. Those are the worst. Like, just shitty people in a position of power. that's the recipe for the bad. It's a bad recipe.
Yes, sir.
So you just had a baby here the other day. Is that your first one?
The first one.
Oh man, how's that feel? Your life changes completely, don't it?
Man, I've known this kid for a week, and I'll burn down the world for her.
It's wild, ain't it?
I never felt anything like this in my life. So it's been pretty amazing. And I mean, who knew you could survive so well off of so little sleep?
Oh man. Well, cheers to you, man. That's awesome.
I appreciate it, brother. Thank you.
That's the best thing you can do with your life is have a kid and make them grow up to be good people. That's
the most. I don't care. I don't care what she wants to do with her life. She wants to ride horses, punch cows, or be a mathlete. I'm gonna be there for her. We're gonna try to be the best out of that we can.
Exactly. Yeah, and having a daughter, that's a whole different level too, because now you're in like full protector mode. Like you might have been in it, dipped a toe in it before, but now that you got a little girl, you're a bear now.
Exactly. And it's crazy because like even in the hospital with the doctors, they were just talking to me. And I was like, I'm sitting there like thinking like that don't make no sense. We're not doing that. Like, just
exactly.
every thought I make is how is this going to affect her?
Yep. No, and that it's a different thing having as a man having a daughter, like, cause I mean, and hopefully you have a boy too, because that's also a whole different feeling too. It's a whole different amount of pride. It's not that you're not proud of your daughter. It's a different world, like,
yes, sir.
Man, I almost cried when my boy won his first wrestling match, and it was against a girl, but I'm just like, the fact that this little bitty shit went out there and just dominated, I'm just like, yes, that's my awesome boy. you know.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's something else. And I mean, everybody that you know that has kids always says that. It's like, yeah, you don't know shit. You don't have kids yet. And it's so true. Like once that little magical moment happens, then you're just like, oh, I got shit to do now. Like I gotta.
What have I been doing for the last 25 years?
Yeah, you know? Like I was not prepared for this. I should have been saving money. I should have been doing this, been doing that, and like exactly. I'm so far behind. But I mean, you're not. But you feel immediately. It's like, oh, yeah. It's not about just me and the wife anymore. Like we're not just like having fun anymore. Like no, we're raising kids now, and that's a whole different deal.
We're contributing to society, and it's up to me to make sure she's worth something.
I know, and you see so many kids that turned out to be assholes because their parents weren't good, and it's like, I'm not doing that. Yeah. I'm not contributing to that. You know, you see these like, and it doesn't matter if it's like on the what side of the spectrum is. An asshole is an asshole, and you see like you got these purple-haired shrieking lunatics on one side, and then you've got the people that are like cozying up to like some real, like they're not quite Nazis, but they're like they're towing that line pretty good, and you're just like,
you can see it. You can see the line for sure.
Yeah, and you're just like, I'm not raising that shit. that is, sir. I'm not raising that shit. And I've been around enough to where like people are just people. I mean, like I don't know if like colorblind's the right way to say it, because I don't think there's any good like I think there's nothing wrong with acknowledging like, hey, me and you we have a whole different experience on life. Like
exactly 100%.
And it's the most glaring difference that you can see is the color of one person's skin, and it's like, but get past that, and then but also like you still have to recognize that there is that difference there, and particularly in this country where it's a whole fucked up past on how we got here. And but I don't think that by ignoring the skin color is the way to go, but also like when you make everything about just the skin color, it's like, all right, well, what about like Patryck as a person? You know, like, okay, he's a black guy, he's a black cowboy. All right, so we get past that, but like, yeah, I want to know, like, yeah, like, when's the last time somebody asked you about if you were a direct descendant from slaves? I mean, I don't have that experience, and you know, I like to hear those stories. You know, it's all part of America. It's all what makes this country great. Was there some bad parts? Fuck yes, there was. There's a lot of bad parts, but it's all worked out pretty decent in the long run. Like there's still a lot of work that to do as a country, but like all in all, like the fact that we can sit here and have this conversation about it is I mean, that's part of what makes this country awesome. You know, it's just
absolutely no. And like you said, it's not like, I hate when people say, oh, I don't see color, because I need you to see the color. Like seeing the color acknowledges that you understand that we've had two very different life experiences. And the great part about it is that now we can bring our two different experiences together and try to pursue a goal together using our backgrounds and experiences and knowledge that we've had because of who we are.
Well, and if it hadn't been for black musicians, we would have never had Elvis. We would have never had the whole rock and roll movement. And
exactly.
Is it cultural appropriation? I mean, I guess technically, but also some really fucking good music came out of it, so I don't see the harm, you know.
I mean, it's not. I hear you. I'm one of those people like yes, I'm black. I'm a very large black man, and usually I'm the biggest, darkest person in the room in the circles that I run in. And I mean, it is what it is, but it's not the only thing that. I hate it when anybody of any color decides that your race is the only thing you have to offer.
I know it's you know, it always cracked me up is they'll talk about how it's and it's all just a distraction deal. Like the more we're fighting with each other, the less we look at the people in charge that are actually causing the problems.
Yes, sir.
But I don't know how many times pulling up to a ranch rodeo, like Like me and my ex brother-in-law, like we almost every time we'd pull into a ranch rodeo, we got Juvenile back that ass up, just fucking blaring, you know. And I mean, it's just one of those things where like, and like some of the old timers, they're like, these goddamn kids. And like, I don't know, this is the music I grew up on too. I mean,
exactly.
They'll say this is a racist country. I was like, man, I grew up around only white people, and every one of my buddies, their heroes growing up was Michael Jordan, Ken Griffey Jr., Terrell Davis, Jerry. You know, it just like all the people that we looked up to were either black athletes or musicians, and and we just pasty white dudes. Pasty white dudes. I mean, look at Eminem. He's considered even by black folks as one of the greatest rappers of all time, and he is the whitest motherfucker out there. But he understood good music and had a talent for it, and it's just, I don't know, man. There's a the race thing is it's a big thing, but the more people focus on it, the more they miss the forest for the trees. They
absolutely,
you know, it's just there's so many like just awesome stories, and when you talk to like I'll swear till my dying day, like the funniest people on earth are black dudes and Mexican guys, and Mexican guys, I don't even know what they're saying most of the time. I look at them and they're talking shit and laughing back and forth, and they're just talking so freaking fast, and you can't help but laugh with them. I don't know what they're talking, but I know it's funny. And just a bunch of black guys sitting around talking shit. Like, you better be on your game, because they'll find something that bugs you, and then they'll just keep pushing that button.
Oh yeah, it's great. I mean, that's camaraderie, and like you were saying, I think that anytime, if you get a group of people together, no matter what they look like, I think if they just have a 5-minute conversation, they'll realize that there's a lot more that they have in common than what separates.
Oh, fuck yeah. And I was like, cowboy world in the military is a lot similar, because particularly you get on like on any like bigger type outfit, you're gonna meet people from all different corners of the world.
Absolutely.
Just like and a lot of them they don't come from the middle of nowhere ranch country. They come from the city, and it's the same way like the military, like they just throw you all in on the same. And what's the first thing you guys do is you talk shit about the other guy's race, and that's how you make buddies. And it's just, that's how it, for men anyways. I don't, women are a little different on that deal, I think, but for guys, I mean, like your best friend, you will say the most horrific shit to them, hoping that they have a better comeback, so it keeps you on your toes, you know, or just try to make them laugh, you know. It's just, it's always what it is. And I mean, some of the jokes that we talk, you know, they're a Mexican guy, a white guy, a black guy, and just like the most horrific racist shit you could think of, and we're all dying laughing, you know. It's just, and it is what it is. But if like somebody recorded that and posted on, I mean, we'd all be canceled.
Oh yeah, it's stuff that doesn't make it past the cattle guard, you know. It's that.
Yeah.
It's the stuff that stays in the atmosphere. What you say it out loud. You don't want to put that in the group message or anything. You that's guy time. You know, it's like you talk shit, and it's always gay. It's always a bunch of gay shit. Too. You know, I don't know why it is, but it always is. It turns into that a lot of times, and I had to, you know, when I got to Sterling and I got around my best friend, one of my best friends, I had to learn. I was like, oh, this is how you guys joke. I wasn't used to that. You know? Oh
yeah, you know, the black community, they ain't about that gay shit most of the time.
We just started, like, dick jokes just became halfway okay in like 2022. Like, we're not quite up there yet. Like, but
that's what always cracks me
dick
up.
Jokes for life.
Yeah, that's what always cracks me up with like these modern day lefties. They'll always throw like they'll talk about black rights, and then they'll throw like the gay shit in behind it. I'm like, do you do you know actual black people? Because the black people I know, they ain't about the gay shit, man.
It's taken a while for us as a culture to get to the, as progressive as some people are.
They always assume that like if you're for black rights, you're also for the gay rights too. And I'm just like, not the black folks I know.
It always it's some kind of oppression contest, like
always the oppression Olympics. It seems like
exactly. It's just like, oh well, if you don't support these people, then there's no way you can support these other people. It's like there's some intricacies in there that you may not understand.
See, that's like Chappelle puts it so good when he's talking about like the white women, like we're a victim too, and he's like, I hear you, and we're just as much of a victim as you. Wait a minute, bitch.
Yeah, I love Dave Chappelle. I love Dave Chappelle. He's probably my favorite comedian. But
man, he's so good at what he does.
He's not even a comedian anymore. Now he's just a public speaker. But
I know,
I love it.
But he's a goddamn hilarious one, though.
Yeah, absolutely. He just I love it. I want to, because I do a little bit of speaking every now and again, and if I can ever get to the point where I can control a room like him, I'll call it success.
Yeah, that's it's a high bar, but it's one worth shooting for, because like when you can, you have the audience just right there in your hand, and that's cool. I've had it a couple times. I'm not like I'm not saying I'm as good as Dave Chappelle, but like when you get those good laughs, man, that's a cool feeling. Yeah, it really is. Yeah, that's why we keep doing shows in Elko. It's just like, man, it's so fun. It's just so much fun.
Man, that is one of my goals. I want to get out there to the poetry gathering so bad. Like I love cowboy poetry. I love the historical stuff. Like again, I told you I'm 28, but you can I act like an old man a lot of the time, and I love.
Man, I'm the same way. I've even in college, like we'd go to the bar, like more often than not, I'd end up just at the end of the bar talking to some old guy and just shooting the shit. I just 100%. That's how I am too. But yeah, keep cowboy poetry on your bucket list. That's a great.
I want to go so bad. It's at a terrible time of year.
It really is. But it's a good show, man. They do it right. There's a lot of yuppies that go through there, but man, it's cool. Like you just cruise around Elko and it's just nothing but doolies and cowboy hats everywhere. Yeah. Just fucking everywhere.
And I want to go because I got to get to. I haven't gone yet because I can't afford to go to Capriola's yet. But
yeah,
because I know I'm gonna have to mortgage the house or something when we do that. So.
Capriola's has some really awesome stuff, but man, they are proud of it too. Yeah. They are.
And a lot of it is I don't own anything that I can hang it on, so most of it's gonna go on the wall.
I know. I love the spade bits, but I don't have a spade bit horse. I didn't grow up in that style, and even like I love how like a good like main hair McCarty, like I love how it sits and plays, but I don't like a loop rein. I like split reins. So I keep saying I'm gonna do it, and I will. I'm gonna have somebody make me a set of 8-foot split reins out of main hair.
That'd be rank.
Because just the way they feel, that natural fiber has just life to it. It's the best way to say it. It just has life to it.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and then same way with like good made leather reins too. Like when you get the cheap shit and they just like they don't lay right. Yeah. I mean, just like good stuff has life to it. And
I'm not like I have a lot of buddies. They're not tax snobs, but that's what they do. And I like nice handmade stuff. I'm not rich, obviously. We cowboy for a living. But if I'm gonna spend money somewhere, it's gonna be on my gear,
Yep.
And it makes a big difference in a lot. You can get a job done with about anything, but it makes a big difference when you're riding something made by somebody that knows what it's supposed to do.
Oh man. Well, like when you hear some of those old stories, like particularly like during the beef boom, just right post Civil War, especially like Texas, because they had a big cattle industry anyways, but then all the men, and that was the white men, the black men, the Mexican men, they all went to fight.
Yeah.
And then nobody took care of cattle, and they just that population just went
Yes,
and then the war's done, and they come back, and well, now you just have longhorns fucking everywhere. And
they're like the hogs.
Yeah, exactly. And you listen to some of those old stories, like whether it's freed black men coming to punch cows. He might have one boot and a blanket to put on his horse, and that's about it. Same way with like some like Polish immigrant that decided the packing houses in Chicago wasn't his thing, so it meandered out west, and he may not even have a horse, may not have shoes, but they somehow make it work. And it's you can get a job done with just about anything, but when you have when you drop that bridle out of your horse's mouth and it's all foamed up, and like I said, you got a bunch of life in your reins, and it makes it a lot better to do your job.
Absolutely. And I'm just now to the point where I can afford some of the stuff. Like, everything that I did this, on my own, we couldn't afford. Nobody in my family could afford to buy a horse. Like, saddles cost, a good saddle costs $4,000 at the bottom,
I know it. It's wild.
So now
that's why you see so many Trent Wards and Corey Ennies getting floated around, because they're good enough. They're good enough. They're not a great saddle, but they're good enough. You can buy those.
Yeah, and I rode a Teskey's factory saddle for 4 years, and that was the first saddle that I bought new. The first saddle I ever rode was older than my granddad, but it stayed together, and it kept me off the horse's back, I guess. So and
kept you from walking. That's
exactly. It kept me from being afoot. And
that's how I know if you got a little cowboy in you. Like, do you like to walk? Fuck no, I don't like to walk.
I'll saddle a horse to go set a gate at the other end of the alley before,
Yeah, we like to act like we're the hardest working guys out there, but mostly we just don't like to walk.
It's really all it is.
We'll let that horse do it.
I want to sit out. No, it's amazing, man. Like, I've got some. I'm just one step above factory. I'm like,
I hear you.
I'm not riding any clappers, but I've got a couple carrot Kellys. They're nice enough.
They're nice enough. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and that's probably the coolest thing I've been able to do through this deal is, as I've met a lot of makers that are like just starting out, or just like people don't know them. And like, I always bring up Matt Wilson. I've had several of his bits now, and he's not your most like polished engraver or even bit maker, but you'll never find more just weird, awesome, cool shit than what he makes. He just pumps out some cool shit. And and then like my buddy Tracy Morrison, I've got a set of spurs from him, and they're awesome. But the work he's doing now compared to when he made my spurs, like, he's on a different level. And
I follow him on Instagram or maybe TikTok, one of the two.
Man,
that's art. Like, some of that stuff, it's hard to put it in a horse's mouth.
I know. And he had that gold, the mouthpiece was lined with 24 karat gold, and I sent him a text, and I was like, man, you have officially moved out of my price range now. I want another one. Like, I want another one, something from you. Like, he made me the Science Squatch buckle I'm wearing.
Okay.
And but I was like, man, I'd love to have like a Mona Lisa bit from him, but I was like, yeah, you're out of my price range now, buddy.
What's the friends and family deal on this thing? Like,
no shit. And I was like, but good for you. I was like, I'm not even mad about it. I'm just like, but you've moved out of my price range. You've hit another level of your game, and that's fucking cool. Like I love seeing that. And but every now and then you make good enough friends with some of those guys, you might be able to get something for kind of cheap. And
there's this. I wear this little copper bracelet here, and the young lady that made it, she used to live up here in Fort Collins, and she was, when I bought this from her, she was doing like a 2 for $23 deal, and it's sure enough rough, and like the cuts aren't straight, but I like it because now she's a solidified bit maker, and she's cranking out artwork, and I think this is like 3 or 4 on the number,
but one of these days that'll be worth like pretty decent money just because she's become well known. And that's like I got the buckle and I got a set of hooks from Tracy, and I was like, well, he's gonna be like, he's already well on his way to being a known bit maker. He got into that like traditional cowboy art style, which is really cool. And so like now when he's selling $3,000 bits, good for you, buddy. But then he's like, I got 80 hours worth of work into that thing.
Exactly.
I mean, there's a reason you charge that much.
For sure. I'm a big fan of paying people what they're worth. I think
so too.
I hate, if you're going to do something, I think you should be paid whatever you feel the value is of it within reason. Obviously, if you build me a hunk of junk and you want $2,500 for it, you can get bit. But if it's worth it, and I know that you put the time and the hours into it, I got no problem with your price. That don't mean I can afford it, but I got no problem with your price.
Yeah, exactly. Whether I buy it or not, it's a different story. But
exactly.
That's the way it is with Tracy. I'm just like, I just know I can't afford it right now. I'd like to be able to, but right now I just know that I'm gonna like all your pictures. And I'm not
exactly. Exactly. And I've got a guy that makes bits for me, David Farkas, out of Stephenville, Texas.
Okay.
And I've got 2 snaffle bits from him, and I've got getting ready to order another little kind of halfway correction bit from him. And I mean, he's just the level that he's at now. Pretty soon I'm gonna be like, well, I'm glad I got him when I did.
Yep, exactly. So,
I understand exactly.
It's but it's also cool. Like a lot of those guys, they know, they make good stuff because they know how to use it. They know what it takes. Like what a good bit feels like. Mm-hmm. They know like when your horse packs it around instead of just fighting it the whole time. Sure. A lot of times that is the bit. It's not you, it's not the horse, it's the bit. And
absolutely.
But when they pack the bit, and then like I said, as soon as you drop it out of their mouth and it's just covered in foam, you're like, they like that bit. They like it because it tastes good.
And I mean, when I unbridle my horses, I pull the headstall off, and I mean, some of the bits that I've got that this guy's made, they'll hold it in there. They'll keep their mouth closed and they'll sit there and eat on it and play with it, and they enjoy it, and that makes me feel good because 1, that means I'm not yet busting their mouths open, and 2, that means I'm doing right by them.
Right.
Put something in their mouth that they don't dread. So
it's funny at some of these Nevada Brandons when everybody's when they're either in the 2 rein or just straight up in the bridle, but it's funny like when everything's quiet and you just hear that cricket just and it's like those horses are content because they're working that cricket, and that's it's a sign. And when it's well made, it's got like a very mechanical sound as it turns, and it's just like whoever made that bit knew what they were doing.
Absolutely. And that's my biggest thing. When I buy something from a maker, it's hard for me to buy something from somebody that's never done it, that's never used it, because it may look cool as heck, and it very well may work, but it very well may not.
Yeah, exactly. And it's that's one of the hard things for like a younger guy getting started, because a lot of, like myself included, a lot of guys are gonna just skip over you because you're young. They're like, he might be pretty talented, but he still doesn't know what he's doing. He ain't been around long enough to know it. And
you ain't made enough mistakes.
Exactly.
That's really all it is.
Exactly right.
You
and
messed up enough.
Yeah, well, that's where wisdom comes from, is learning from your mistakes. But the mistakes have to be made, whether they're yours or somebody else's. They have to be made in order for that wisdom to get there. It's it's a whole thing.
I mean, I feel that way about my horses. I look at some of the horses that people paid me money and were happy with what I gave them back, 3-4 years ago. And I look at them now and I'm like, oh, dear God, I wouldn't ride that thing if my life depended on it.
Yeah, somebody asked me, did you ride that? Fuck no, I didn't do that one. Me.
Exactly. But I mean, you give it back to the owners, and the thing lopes, circles both directions, doesn't throw his head in the air, and you get over the gate on them, and they're just happy.
Well, and they have a different use for that horse than we do, because
exactly.
Yeah, that's the thing, is like if you got repeat customers, then you're doing all right. Like,
yes, sir.
Any guy can get a bunch of customers, but if he only has them once, then
exactly
it says a little bit. Yeah,
absolutely. And I mean, I'm lucky enough that people send me. I'm at the point now where I don't have to ride the sale barn trash anymore.
That's a good feeling, ain't it?
It's a beautiful feeling, because, like I said, I've told you how big I am. I'm not a bronc rider. If I come off, it's gonna hurt, and we're gonna be laid up.
Man, coming down hard.
Exactly. So now I don't have to. At least most of the stuff I ride now has a little bit of self-preservation.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
That's a good feeling and they're teachable. There's nothing worse than oh yeah, my name's Susie Q, and I brought my 12-year-old rescue. That's he got 30 days on when he was 3, and we turned him out for 10 years. So
yeah, so he's got a good foundation. He don't remember that foundation, I guarantee you.
He weighs 1,400 pounds now, and I can't pull him around like.
Yeah, no shit. Yeah, if he drops his head, I ain't getting it back.
It's his. He owns it now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, sir. Well, no, I love.
I gotta take a leak. We call that good for the main episode. If you got about 20 minutes in you, we'll come back and do a little bonus segment for the Patreon folks.
You bet, man.
Hey, you got anything you want people to follow you on social media or anything like that?
Oh man, I mean, if you can follow me at Patryck Mentor on Instagram, and that's pretty much where everything is. And we do horse training, we do order buying, we do livestock hauling. I told you, anything that pays, we do. So
you're a hustler, and that's what I like. I like people that hustle. We said earlier, like, America was built on the back of a beef, but it was all the people hustling to get that beef up to where it's supposed to be. That's what people that hustle. That's what builds anything. You got to hustle to build shit. So I like people that hustle. And Patryck, I enjoyed the shit out of this conversation, and we'll talk a little more cowboy shit here on the other side. But I appreciate you coming on, man.
Hey, thank you for having me, brother. I appreciate it.
You bet. Everybody else, thanks for joining in. If you'd like to hear the rest of this conversation, patreon.com/burning daylight. You can sign up there, and it's the best way to support the show. But thanks again, Patryck, and move your ass. We're burning daylight.
You rise up in the morning beneath the stars so bright. Pull your hat down, make sure your cinch is tight. Horse is kinda snuffy, cold chill up your spine. We'll get your ass moving, son, we're burning daylight. Burning daylight, burning daylight. In the saddle till the job's done right. Burning daylight. Well, life is just a gather, and you won't catch 'em all. But when you ride through the gate, make sure you sit up tall. I can see the horizon, it's looking pretty bright. Well, get your ass moving, son, we're burning daylight. Burning daylight. Burning daylight. In the south, till the job's done right.